Fake marinas, cringe celebrity cameos, and racing around a football stadium, F1 is back for season 2026 Part B, which means it's time for the Miami Grand Prix review. Let's go. Yes, Formula One is back after what felt like a 3-month sabbatical, and for the first of what seems like a dozen US appearances in Miami, where we also get to see another useless sprint race. So I'll pause for the review just for a second and ask for your comments on this one. What does everyone think of the sprint format? Personally, I think it either needs to be a reverse grid race based off championship order, or it needs to be its own championship separate from the main drivers one altogether. Either way, the current format simply isn't doing anything for the Grand Prix weekend. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think and we'll go from there. With both the Saudi and Bahrain rounds being postponed as world leaders had a giant pissing contest in the Middle East, all 11 F1 teams were busy with a wave of updates for their 2026 cars. Well, with the exception of Aston Martin, as it seems someone's replaced Adrian Newey's notebook for Lance's crayons. Anyway, McLaren, Red Bull and Ferrari were all bringing updates for Miami, while Mercedes were waiting for Montreal for the next update. But as we'll go on to see, it didn't really affect the Brackley squad too much based on the result. Once all the media departments had finished getting their drivers to throw footballs and play basketball, we finally got down to some track action. And the McLaren drivers wasted no time in showing their early season form was in the past by qualifying in pole and third for the sprint. Split by Kimi Antonelli in second, with Verstappen also showing up with his first top 5 quali for the season. Mercedes' new number 2 George Russell a disappointing 6th. To the sprint race, and after bogging it on the line, Antonelli would drop to 4th, allowing both Piastri and Leclerc to overtake him, while almost allowing bridesmaid George Russell past too. Other than Verstappen and Hamilton briefly squabbling over 6th and 7th for a few corners, it was a relatively quiet sprint, which brings up the before-mentioned question, and would see Lando hold the gap to take out his first win and podium for the season ahead of teammate Piastri and Leclerc in 3rd. Antonelli would cop a post-race penalty, dropping him to 6th behind Russell and Verstappen. To qualify for the main race, and for the first time all season, we'd see 4 teams in the top 4, with Kimi Antonelli taking his 3rd pole from 3 races, ahead of a resurgent Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc in 3rd, with Lando Norris in 4th. Along with DJ Khaled and Jimmy Fallon, the rain looked to ruin the race day, with the tropical thunderstorm forecast forcing the FIA to pull forward the starting time by 3 hours, piling on the misery for Aussie fans who not only had to contend with David Cross commentary and Martin Brundle's grid walk, but also a 3 AM starting time. With the rain clearing and a dry start ahead, we looked to the 5 lights and race start, and not for the first time a 3-way ended badly in Miami as Kimi, Charles and Max all headed into turn 1 together, with the Mercedes and Red Bull drivers locking up, allowing Leclerc through into the lead, piling the pressure on Max, forcing him into a spin. Such is the skill set of Max, he hit nothing, 360'd, collected it as if nothing had happened, but dropped down to 10th in the process. Lap 5 and the yo-yoing began, with Kimi overtaking Charles for the lead, only for Charles to get him back, and then Kimi to get him back again. While all this was taking place, Isaac Hadjar got a bit too close to the Miami walls, clipping the wall on the entry to the main chicane before finishing the job properly and putting it into the wall. This would have been enough for a safety car, but then Liam Lawson made sure of it when he yeeted Pierre Gasly into the wall after rubbing wheels, causing the Frenchman into a full rollover, coming to a rest with the back end of the car resting on the tyre wall. Verstappen took the chance for a free pit stop, changing to the hards, meaning he'd have to nurse the harder compound tyres for 50 laps. After the restart, Norris would take Leclerc for the lead, then Antonelli would also take the Ferrari driver a couple of corners later, with of course Leclerc getting him back again at the next straight and then Antonelli getting him back a lap later, blah blah blah. Lap 21 and George Russell would trigger a flurry of pit stop activity. Leclerc pitted a lap later, only for Ferrari to change the front right with a spanner instead of a wheel gun, meaning he'd rejoin behind Russell. After his stop on lap 27 and Norris's on 28, Antonelli would breeze past with the warmer tyres into the lead, which he would hold for the rest of the race. In the latter parts of the race, Piastri would work his way up from 6th to a podium position courtesy of a last lap Leclerc spin, which we won't say anything about. That would prove costly for the Monegasque driver, not only dropping from 3rd to 6th on track, but also copping a post-race drive-through penalty that would see him classified 8th, behind Franco Colapinto, who would go on to equal his best ever GP finish in 7th position. So despite complaining of a gearbox issue in the latter stages of the race, Kimi Antonelli would go on to win his third race in succession and at the same time stretch his championship lead to 20 points over George Russell. A great result with updates incoming at the next round in Montreal. A return to the podium for both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, confirming a giant step in the right direction for the defending champions McLaren as they look to make amends for their poor start to the season. So for the first race of part 2 of a disjointed season has been run and won, and the storylines going into Canada look a little like this. Kimi is a real threat for the championship now, and the pressure seems to be piling on Russell by the race. McLaren seem to be back in the hunt with their new upgrades, and Ferrari, after bringing a huge 11 updates, now have to be wondering where their season lies. And Red Bull at least are on an upward trajectory. So that's it for Miami. It's another 3-week break between races, but not for Max Verstappen as he lines up in Germany for the Nürburgring 24 Hour in the Mercedes GT3 with Jules Gounon, Lucas Auer and Daniel Juncadella, and what promises to be one of the best endurance races at the Nürburgring in recent memory. Canada looks to be another enthralling battle for the 2026 F1 title, and we can't wait for the F1 action to return. In the meantime, follow CNK on all your socials as we bring you all the news and action from the Nürburgring 24 Hour, as well as WEC and Supercars. And subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Again, thanks for watching. We really do appreciate all your support, and we'll see you at a racetrack near you soon.